Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Studio Live today, GarageBand Weekly, and our special WWDC preview show. Yes, WWDC, Worldwide Developers Conference, is just around the corner, less than 24 hours away. So I thought we would dive in with some rumors, some speculation, some innuendo. That's not right. If you're watching this on the replay, there is a timestamp down below where you go straight to the show, because this is the pre-show, the show before the show, where I give folks a chance to come in, grab a beverage, join me live here on Facebook or YouTube. I'm drinking water today because it is 6:30 a.m. on a Monday morning here in Adelaide, South Australia. If you are in the US, it'll be 2 o'clock on one coast, 5 o'clock on the other coast, and it'll be 10 p.m. for those brave souls in the UK and Europe. Have a quick drink. I hope you are doing well. I hope you've had a good weekend. And yeah, I hope you're ready to talk about some GarageBand goodness with a flavor, a little bit of a side flavor of WWDC. If you're not aware of what WWDC is and why you should care, then stick around, because we'll be talking about exactly that here on the show as well. Let's make sure I got some notes set up here, ready to go. I've got my preparation done somewhere. There it is. So I'll be able to talk through some of the things that have been talked about. Clearly, I'm borrowing from a lot of other places where there's speculation, as well as from within the community, because I've been chatting to many of you folks about what you expect to see and not see as well in the next couple of days. So we will dive into that in a moment. Who have we got here live? We have Alex Backus, who is here. Hello to you. Good to have you here on board. We've got SM Borthwick. Hi to you. Desolate Mourning. Hello. Tom Rishel is here. Scott is looking forward to what Apple will announce this week, as am I. I'm intrigued. I'm always interested as to how things are going to turn out. Cody, hello to you. Hi, everyone. Alex Backus, it's 11 p.m. in Germany. Yes, sorry, it's 10 p.m. in London, Greenwich Mean Time. And if you're a little further to the side, then yes, it will be later for you as well. And it is 10 p.m. for Stu Cash over there in the UK. Happy days indeed. Hello to Asa BT. Good to have you here on board, as well as we start getting into the WWDC kind of mood. So we'll be about 2 or 3 minutes away. I'm just finalizing a few notes and getting things set up here before we dive into the show. So just bear with me a moment while we get everything sorted out here, and we'll move on and start talking about what's been happening in the week of GarageBand, except we won't really, because I'm replacing, here's a spoiler alert, I'm replacing the news and notes section this week with the WWDC special section, because there really hasn't been much other news, to be honest. And the iOS 14 rumors and the logic coming to iOS, those sort of rumors are probably more interesting to chat about than anything else that's been going on. Let me bring up excuse me, I'm just going to bring up my theme music so we can get on into the show, and we'll be getting started in just about 1 minute's time. By the way, if you have your own speculation, your own rumors, your own things that you think we should see or would like to see, maybe we'll talk about your feature wish list. That would be a cool thing. GarageBand feature wish list, or just iOS or macOS in general feature wish list. That'd be kind of cool to chat about. So if you've got any ideas, start thinking about those and getting those in the chat shortly. Let's just test my theme music. That sounds like it's going to be okay. Just put that volume up a little bit more. That's what we're going to go with to start the show. Rightio, let's get this happening, shall we? Because no time like the present. Where are we? Yep, we're 5 minutes in. So yep, the camera's set. Got my notes, got my audio, and volume levels are looking okay. So I'm going to take a quick pause, and then we're going to jump in for the actual proper show, GarageBand Weekly. Let's do this. Yes, welcome back to GarageBand Weekly here on Studio Live today, and our special WWDC Preview Edition. Yes, in less than 24 hours, the keynote from the Worldwide Developer Conference, where Apple announced their big changes for the year, will be going down. So there's lots of rumors and speculation going on at the moment. So I thought it's always fun to just put this out there so that historically I can either be seen as being very accurate or completely foolish and way off the mark. But either way, it's going to be a bit of fun. We've also got a few other segments that we're going to get into here in the show. We'll be having a rant. I'll be giving you a tip. We'll be talking plugins and other things. And of course, we'll be talking to you. So if you're here live on Facebook or YouTube and you have anything that you want to contribute, whether it's to do with GarageBand or whether it's to do with WWDC in particular, then let us know. But let's jump in to the news and notes of the week. And I'm going to replace these. So because it's a bit of a slow news week, I'm replacing the news and notes this week with the WWDC predictions. Now, if you're not familiar with what WWDC is all about, yes, I'm saying that a lot. It reminds me of like the WWF and then WWE. Sounds like a wrestling thing, doesn't it? If you're not aware of what that's all about, again, it is where Apple, historically, it's a conference for developers, but the big keynote that they have there is usually about what's changing, what's coming up, new iPhones, new iPads, new iOS, new Macs, $6,000 monitors, all of that sort of gear. The audience sits there and they clap and say, yes, please take my $6,000. And it's a pretty exclusive sort of event. It costs a lot of money to go to. You have to buy a ticket. You have to be kind of in the scene to actually get along to it. But of course, we've always been able to watch the keynotes streamed live. The difference this year is the whole conference is going to be streamed live and for free, pretty much. So you can watch a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. If you're a developer or a would-be Apple developer, this is going to be gold, because wherever you are in the world, if you're sitting here in your front room in Adelaide, Australia, I can actually tune in as long as I'm willing to get up early to do so. And I will be getting up early tomorrow because, it's 2:30 a.m. Adelaide time is when the keynote will be happening. And that's those famous keynotes where, Steve Jobs will get up there in the past and say, we're doing this. Oh, and one more thing. And then he'll say something amazing. And more recently, Tim Cook gets up there with about 20% as much charisma and says, we're doing some things. So that's what WWDC is all about. So let's just cut to the chase. What are we expecting? What's going to be happening with WWDC? Well, in no particular order, here's some of the things that I've been seeing, that I've been researching, that have apparently been leaked, and you've got to take all those leaks with a grain of salt, that may be happening. And that is, so iOS. You might remember when iOS 13 came out, they changed iPad OS to be called iPad OS. So prior to that, it was just iOS, and regardless of whether it was on your iPad, iPod Touch, your iPhone, or your iPad, it was called iOS. They split that off so that the iPad version is now iPad OS. And the rumor is that for iOS 14, they're actually going to change it to iPhone OS 14 and iPad OS 14, just to provide that complete distinction between the two. Now, this wouldn't be completely unprecedented because the first iPhone actually had iPhone OS. So if you go right back to the very start, the first generation iPhone, that came out with iPhone OS. So that wouldn't be surprising if they actually go with that option, in my opinion. Next up on the list is the iPhone 12. Are we going to hear anything about the iPhone 12? Now, I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of speculation about what the iPhone 12 is going to do. It's pretty simple these days. There's not really revolutionary features going in here. The cameras usually get a bit better. The processors get a bit faster and maybe some more cores. We get some more RAM. We get some more storage options. And the good thing, I guess, is that Apple have kept pricing pretty flat recently. So there was a time there where it seemed every year it went up by like a few $100s. I think they've realized that in the current economy that they can't really do that. So it'll be interesting to see, are there going to be any details of an iPhone 12 announced, any preview to it? I don't think we're going to see like it shipping like in the next week. I think we would have heard a lot more about it if that were the case. But what do you think? Are you waiting? Let me know in the chat here or in the comments. Are you waiting to upgrade? Are you like me and you're rocking an iPhone XS and you're not buying an 11 because you only upgrade every couple of cycles, and you're excited to see what the iPhone 12 may bring and what that may do for garage banding in general? Because all of this relates back to GarageBand, because many of us use a Mac. Well, okay, all of us use either a Mac or an iOS device to run GarageBand. And the better devices we have, the more stuff we can do in GarageBand, the more tracks we can run run, the more cool plugins we can run, the less optimizing performance we get. And those are all good things. Let's get over to Mac for a little bit. So apparently a new iMac is rumored, and a new iMac that is going to be, here's the big rumor, the iMac is going to be styled like the iPad Pro. So we're going to get the same thin bezels and the same rounded corners and the same stylish frames and probably thin screens that we're now seeing on the iPad Pro models. So that is the main buzz. We haven't really heard much about what sort of specs we're going to get, which for me, I care a little bit more about that. So I've said this before, when the iPhone SE2 came out and then the reviewers were saying it's really, really good, except that, it's got these old 2017 style bezels. I was like, I like those bezels. I want those bezels. I don't like the screens that go right to the edge. I find them weird and annoying. But apparently I'm very much in the minority. But yeah, again, let me know what you think. Do you like use some bezels? Would you be interested for the Mac users? Are you thinking an iMac? Do people use iMacs for their studio production, or is everyone on a laptop now? If you're using GarageBand on Mac, let me know. You want an iMac? You want I know a lot of folks use the Mac Minis that are hooked up to their screens for their recording, and many folks use MacBooks and MacBook Pros, of course. The other thing about the new Macs, apparently Apple are leaving Intel behind, and they're moving to ARM-based processors. So if you don't know about the whole sort of processor and what sort of processor they're using, Apple used to use a PowerPC processor. They moved to Intel in about 10 years ago now, probably longer than that. So using Intel processors. Now the word is that they're going back to their own custom developed chips for their own Apple products, which would not surprise me because Apple love them some proprietary standards. So having their own custom made chip would make sense. So I think that's probably going to happen. What about music, and specifically related to music stuff? Well, there's not a whole lot. It's pretty light on the ground, to be honest. I tried to scrape through and find a few things that might actually be relevant to those producing music or creating music. In terms of connectivity, there's not much. The rumor is that the iPhone 12 will continue to be Lightning based, which I think is really weird. I honestly thought by iPhone 11 we would be USB-C. No, it's Lightning, and apparently iPhone 12 also Lightning. iPhone 13, I know we're talking way in the future, but iPhone 13, unless they skip it because it's unlucky and they go to 14, who knows? They do weird stuff. But the next one will probably be USB-C. That's at least what we're hearing. And there is another rumor around iPads that the iPad Air 4, so the next version of the iPad Air, may go to USB-C, meaning that your iPad Air and your iPad Pro, all of your higher end iPads will all be USB-C, and then it will just leave the iPad mini and regular iPads as Lightning. So basically providing a more professional connection to your iPad Air. So they're the connectivity stuff. New studio headphones from Apple, but it's not exciting. Before you get excited, don't get excited, because these are what they're dubbing will be called AirPod Studio. Now, that sounds exciting. They'll be over-ear headphones, but of course they'll be Bluetooth, because AirPod, people don't want to plug things in anymore, and what would you plug it into anyway? You don't have a headphone jack. So AirPod Studio, which, yeah, if you don't know why Bluetooth is not a good idea for studios, it is latency. If you're trying to record or mix or master or do something with audio, Bluetooth is not your friend. Don't think you can plug your AirPods in and then record using the mic because it'll sound okay. It will sound okay, but you'll be a couple of sort of not seconds, but you'll be a few milliseconds behind, and your recordings will sound crappy because they won't actually all line up. So keep that in mind as well for Bluetooth. But yeah, am I excited by AirPods Studio over-ear Beats? No. Like Beats type headphones? No. The AirPods Studio will just be... I was going to be insulting him, and I will. What's in my head is it'll just be worn by hipsters on the train with interesting facial hair. But yeah, at the moment they just wear the AirPods. But the problem with AirPods is that people can't always see that you're wearing AirPods, and it's really important that people know what you're wearing when you're listening to, I don't know, your finance podcasts or whatever it is. I'm getting really insulting here. I'll stop now. What else have we got? A few more things to mop up here. AirTags are coming, apparently. There's some code in iOS 14 to talk about AirTags, which are like the little tile type devices that you clip onto your stuff, and then you can use your phone to find your stuff. I use the tiles already on my keys and stuff, and they're very, very cool. So if there was an Apple Universe version of that, yeah, I'd probably buy it. Yeah, just I would hook it to my audio interface and my Lightning to USB adapter, and that way I'd never lose those because they seem to just get put somewhere in the studio. So that could be kind of cool. And from Mac OS, it's crickets. I know I talked to Patrick from the GarageBand Guide from time to time, and yeah, from a GarageBand point of view and just from a general Mac OS point of view, there really hasn't been any revolutionary changes for quite a while. Now, you might say that's because Mac OS just works and is fine and does the things that it needs to do. Yet sometimes when people upgrade, like the recent Catalina upgrade, some things still manage to go wrong and some bugs are caused and some issues happen, especially with things like plugins and third-party software in GarageBand. That was apparently a bit of a mess for those who use Mac OS. So hopefully if we see any Mac OS changes, it will be to actually fix bugs and to make things more stable so that our Mac GarageBand friends have a stable system. Last but not least, let's talk about iOS 14. So what's coming with iOS 14? Anything for our GarageBand iOS users that is going to be interesting? Well, not really. Not particularly. My biggest question mark around this, which no one's actually talking about, is will iOS 14 support the same hardware that iOS 13 supported? So if you remember iOS 13, it was the first version for a while that cut out a lot of the older devices. So the minimum specs for iOS 13 were iPhone 6S or above, iPad Air 2 or above, iPad Mini 4 or above, and any iPad Pro. So iOS 14, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that those lower end models may get cut off, especially the iPad Air 2. That's pretty long in the tooth. Even our beloved iPhone 6S going up to the 7. I'm pretty sure that they'll just cut out any iPhones that have a headphone jack just to ruin our fun. And then the iPad Air 2 may be on its last update as well. I could be wrong, but yeah, the processors and the memory and the performance of those is starting to get a bit laggy. And if we're going to see some of the things that we speculated in iOS 14, then that could be on its way out. So what are those speculations? Well, apparently for music people, one of the interesting ones is third-party apps as defaults might be a thing. So at the moment, Apple very much want you to use their Mail app, their Music app, their Everything app. You don't have the opportunity to just change it up. So if I want to have Chrome as my default browser, if I want Spotify as my default music player, it's impossible to do that right now without jailbreaking your phone. Whereas in the future, in iOS 14, apparently that's going to be coming. Custom home screens is probably the most exciting thing that I've seen. So for anyone like me that grapples with and fights with the grid format that we have for storing all your apps, and when you're trying to use GarageBand and you're trying to go through and find all of your different music making apps and your folders and things like that, I know some people love it and they like the grid. I kind of do, because the one thing I don't like about Android is how messy it can look. So I do like the grid for that reason. But if I could just have a little bit more freedom and flexibility to put some things, and it's got to be easier. Does anyone else have a really hard time customizing their Apple screen? Like, it's so weird. Like, you have to do the little wiggle thing and then move it. If you're moving from like one screen and then 4 screens to the left, it takes you forever to do that. So if they can fix that, that'd be good. Anything else? Not really. AR updates, so augmented reality is going to become a big thing. I don't know how that's going to impact music at all. I can't see any augmented reality music related stuff. Maybe if you're at a gig, you could use AR to maybe get information or to get links to bands, or put QR codes on things when you're in a gig. I don't think in the recording studio there's going to be much use for it. And one thing that I think would be cool is apparently Safari is getting a translation upgrade. And I know that many folks here, English is not your first language. So a lot of my European folks who tune in, that would actually be pretty cool, because a lot of the times I'm communicating with folks, and to have a translation engine built into iOS and built into Safari would actually make life easier. I wouldn't have to spend a lot of my time on translate.google.com pasting in stuff if I could just hit a button. And I know there's already translation options for web pages, but this would apparently be built in completely native and offline mode as well, which seems a bit wacky. Like, are they going to have to store every dictionary for every language in your iPhone or iPad? I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you think about these potential changes and potential things that we may see coming here because I don't know. Are you excited? I'm semi excited. I'm somewhere between meh and this might be a bit of fun. So we'll see what comes about from that. What do folks that are here in the chat have to say? Anyone got any views or thoughts on this? Alex says headphone jack is coming back. Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if that came back? I don't think so. The one thing. So yeah, I buried the lead here. Tom Rishel, let's all hope for a Logic Pro iOS edition. Yeah, so that was actually on my list here. I was going to save it for later, but let's talk about that now. So I know Jade Star and other folks are definitely hoping that we'll see Logic Pro on iOS, so an iPad version. I don't know that we're ever going to get an iPhone version, so I doubt it will be a universal app. If anything, it will be only for the iPad Pro, perhaps, or maybe it will just be iPad only and you can use it on any iPad device. That if that were the case, if they're going down a pro app route, I suggest that they'll probably be lifting the minimum specs for iOS 14 because of that. And maybe iPad OS in particular will be cutting out things like the iPad Air 2. And maybe it would be weird if they cut out their new iPad. The 2019 iPad that they just released is actually one of the lower performing processors on the market now. So, yeah, that would be a bit weird if they put out. I don't think that they would remove that from support, but that's running a pretty old chip. But, yeah, how cool would Logic be on the iPad Pro or the iPad? That'll be very cool. Cody says I'd get a new iPhone, but I'd get a new iPhone, but I'm not very rich. Yeah, join the club. That's why I'm always a generation or two behind on most of my stuff. I've been rocking the iPad Air 2 until about 2 months ago. So I hear you. Hello to 1,000 watts who is here in the chat as well. Asa BT says there's a rumor that next year the iPhone will be dropping the Lightning connector and there'll only be a smart connector for connecting things. Yeah, that would be very, very very unfortunate that we wouldn't have any plug-in connector. It would only be a smart connector that we'd be able to sort of connect and dock and sync to. I've heard the same sort of thing as well, that yeah, the iPhone will just go completely wireless. I know that they don't want any holes, no ports, nothing to, and look, it would be good, nothing to get dust into, but I think that could be a real challenge. That may spell the end for folks connecting up stuff if you had to use a smart connector. I mean, I'm sure there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. I'm sure you could connect a USB device via a smart connector somehow. Apple are actually not bad at providing legacy support for things. You just have to buy a collection of white plastic dongles, which is usually the case. Rick says my iPhone is still a 5G or 5S. It's ancient. It's a 5S. If it's a 5G, it causes problems. Apparently, that's what a group of loud people told me one time. That 5G is the cause of all the problems in the world. Tom Rochelle still rocking an iPhone 7 Plus. Yeah, the 7s were good. 7 Pluses were good as well. The 7s and the 8s are actually underrated iPhone. They got the nice chunky bezel too. I do like the chunky bezel. And yes, it could be a real problem for mobile music producers not having ports and not having things. Absolutely. Ride the lightning, says Alex Backus. Yeah, absolutely. So 14 is said to have the same device support. There you go. So maybe we will see the exact same device support as iOS 13 for iOS 14. And Cody's here confirming I got Bluetooth device and it's difficult for timing when recording, so I don't wear headphones when recording. Yeah, and that's the thing. So it's really about if you're trying to multi-track, you're trying to listen back to your recording and then record a new track, it's almost impossible to get correct timing if you're using Bluetooth there. Gino Therese is here, a little bit late. Hello, good to have you here though. Question, is the GarageBand developers considering adding a mandolin as an instrument? I know it's off topic. It's not that far off topic. We'll talk about that in a moment. I want to know your GarageBand wish list. If we get a new version of GarageBand following these announcements, what do you wish for? We'll talk about that in a moment. Dimon SL iPad Mini 5 is really good for music and video and drawing. Absolutely, yep. Lee Davies said, if I use an 8 Plus, is there any difference using GarageBand on iPhone 10, iPhone 11, iPhone 12? No. So as long as you're on iOS 13 at the moment, you're going to have GarageBand 2.3.8, which is the latest version. There's virtually no difference. I think the only actual difference on these is that they've got the Face ID, which means that you can do the weird guitar wah thing by going wow, wow, wow at the screen. I think that's literally the only difference. Oh, and you don't have 3D touch on the newer stuff. You've got the haptic feedback touch. So you can actually do more stuff on my old iPhone 6S than I can on my iPhone 10s because it doesn't have that 3D touch functionality. So, yeah, that is a thing. So there you go. Let me know what you think. If you're watching on the replay, drop a comment down below and let me know, yeah, what are you expecting and how do you feel? I'm going to do a poll on the community tab after this show, which is whether you think it's very exciting, meh, underwhelming, or completely unexciting. And we'll see what that's like before and after the announcements, and we'll see how that goes. Alrighty. Now, I normally do a rant of the week here, and I'll do similar, but we're going to jump straight into what would you wish for? If you had a GarageBand genie that came down and said, I'm going to grant you one wish. You can only have one feature in GarageBand, and I'm saying one because I know I could list off 10 right now, but if you could only have one feature in GarageBand, what would it be? And you can answer this for GarageBand Mac or GarageBand iOS. Me, as a GarageBand iOS user, the one function that I would ask for is a master fader. And I'm going to cheat by saying, in conjunction with the master fader, I want it also to be able to export at the level I set with my master fader. You hear me? You hear me, GarageBand? I don't want your auto normalization voodoo going on behind the scenes. I want you to trust me that I actually do want 12 dB of headroom so that I can actually properly master my tracks. So that is mine. If you're not sure what I'm talking about there, at the moment, GarageBand iOS, you can set all your different tracks. You can set your master volume, but that's just the volume of your phone or your iPad. That's not actually anything to do with the master track. A real master track lets you actually set the volume of the master. And you can also then add master plugins to that track, which makes it even more convenient. So the GarageBand version on Mac already has this. The iOS version does not, and it is a little bit the bane of my existence at the moment. There's a bunch of other stuff. I'd love automation on other types of tracks. I'd love some better compatibility for some other things. Like, there's a lot that I'd like there, but I'm interested. What would you like? So instead of ranting this week, I'm going to hand the rant over to you. Drop a comment down below. Let me know in the chat, and I'll circle back before the end of the show to get onto that one. What about a tip of the week this week, a GarageBand related tip? Well, I've talked about this before, but I continue to get questions about transferring files. So I just wanted to cover off on this one really quickly again. If you want to share files from one iPhone or iPad to another, there's a few ways to go about it. The quickest and easiest way is to AirDrop. So just grab your file and AirDrop it. Now, if you're dropping GarageBand files, make sure they're zipped up. So even if you're going from an iPhone to a Mac or an iPad to a Mac or a Mac to an iPad, zip them up because it'll make sure that the file's all contained in one spot. And if if at any point that file goes outside of the Apple world, it's going to get corrupted. So zip up. If you're using a GarageBand file, first thing you want to do is compress it. Now here on the iPhone or the iPad, you simply go into your files and down in the bottom, or just come in here. If you go into your files and select a file, then down in the bottom corner, can you see that? Yep, down in the bottom corner, all you need to do is tap on this one, and it's going to bring up an option here to compress. All you do is compress it, it zips it up into a nice handy zip file, and then you can transfer that around. So AirDrop is your friend. If you want to go to a PC, I use a couple of things. There's one which is Documents by Redl or Riadl. I never know how to say that. The other is Audio Share. Both of those have Wi-Fi drive functions built in. So these are super handy. If your PC, Mac, iPhone, Android tablet, whatever, is on the same Wi-Fi network and has access to a browser, which every device does, then all you need to do is run, in this case, Audio Share. I turn on my Wi-Fi drive settings, and then there you go. I'm able to locally log in to that website. It'll then pop it up the folder structure. I download, I upload, I add my files. It's as simple as that. A lot of folks struggle with this because it doesn't seem like it's intuitive. It's not kind of supported. Just don't go down the track of plugging in and trying to work out iTunes and trying to grapple with all of that. Use your Wi-Fi network that you already no doubt have in your own home to transfer those files. And again, even if you want to go from device to device, even if it's Android to Mac or Android to iOS, you can do it using those Wi-Fi drive features. So hopefully that helps you out if you want to send your stuff around. And it's good too for photos and videos. You can do the same sort of thing. Zip them all up into one file, transfer that file, unzip them in the location you're sending them to. Makes it super easy and convenient to back up your videos and photos, free up some space on your devices. Happy days are here again. Plugins and apps of the week. Now, there's a couple that I've been re-exploring in the last week because a question came up on the show yesterday, I think, about getting a vinyl, that vinyl wobble kind of sound, warble, wobble, whatever you want to call it. And how do you actually create that? Well, there's a couple of cool old school plugins that I would recommend here. One is called DAW LP. Actually, I don't have it there. I have it on my iPad here. I showed this briefly in one of my shows this weekend, but DAW LP, DAWLP, is by our friends at Clevgrand, and it's a very, very cool little plugin. There it is. It's Clevgrand, so it's like nice, simple interface. But when you actually put this on a track in GarageBand, let me just show you, shall we? We'll bring it up in GarageBand. I'm not going to do a full demo here. I may do a proper demo of this in the coming weeks if folks are interested enough. But just for now, let's just add it to a vocal here. Try to delete. Trying to do all this on the fly. This is where you say, Pete, why don't you just get this set up before the show? Here we go anyway. So here in GarageBand, there's DAW LP. We'll add it here to our vocal track. And then if we come into the settings, this is what it looks like. So we've got all of these. We've got the controls here, and the controls there are your amp noise, your vinyl noise, your scratches, and your hum. And then over here, you've got input, output, gain. You can play around with the mix, and you've got a whole bunch of other options up here that you can set in there. So you can dial in a nice setting, and I think it's even got some presets here, does it? No. It doesn't have presets. But yeah, you can play around with that. And if you want to get that old school vinyl record sound, that's a pretty cool way to go. They also make a DAW cassette by Clevgrand, which is a very similar thing if you want to get that tape noise. And every time I talk about something like this, it makes me feel very strange because back in the day, when I was recording on tape, and not LP, but when we were listening to LPs, we would always fantasize about having this perfect, pristine, crystal clear sound and how we would actually remove the tape noise, the hum, the wobble, the vinyl scratches, any of that sort of stuff. We tried desperately to remove it and make our audio pristine. Now, we want to rub that audio in the dirt and rough it up. It's weird, isn't it? But that's the way things go. So that's our plugin or app of the week for this week. Good question, Desolate Mourning. How much is that app? I haven't actually checked it for a while. Let's just do a quick Google search here. By the way, if you want to search for an app to find out how much it costs, if you already own it, just search App Store and then the name of the app. So it appears that it is $12.99 US. So yeah, if you definitely want something like this, go ahead and grab it now. It's actually a very cool app, very cool plugin. But if you're not sure, just wait for that. Wait for the review, which will be coming soon here on Studio Live today. Let's see if any folks have got any ideas here. Alex says, there was a hipster in the train wearing AirPods and listening to... Pete, there was the hipster in the train wearing AirPods and listening to the finance podcast. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I did already have a rant, didn't I? I was going on for that rant. Thank you, Rick Lisk, for being here. Looking suave there, Rick, in your profile pic, by the way. Wearing the GarageBand Users t-shirt, representing. Love it. Let's go. We've got... I wanted to see if folks have got there what they would like to see. Alex says, a time counter. Yeah, if you're newer to GarageBand, we only have the ability to view bars. We don't have time, at least in the iOS version. We don't have minutes and seconds, so you can only use bars. And it's a bit of a pain in the butt, because why wouldn't you just have the ability to have time instead of bars? Desolate Mourning agrees with that one. IRIDIUM hoping for Logic Pro iOS. Yes, then we might actually be able to get the timestamps as well. Scott says that improved automation would be nice. Yeah, absolutely. Automation at the moment with only volume, you can hack around it to do some panning and some effect automation, but it's not easy. What have we got? Tom Rishel. Automation for all parameters, the ability to turn off auto normalization and the GB. Oh yeah. So for those on a Mac, the one thing that, so a lot of the stuff on the Mac, like the master track, is a lot better than iOS. The one thing that people ask me about, I do a bunch of videos on using the merge function to normalize and to mix down tracks on the fly in your projects. GarageBand Mac doesn't have that. To do the same thing on GarageBand Mac, you need to actually solo, export the tracks, and then re-import those exported tracks into your project separately. It takes a long time. It's clunky. It's a pain in the butt. So again, why you have the merge function in the iOS version but no merge function in the Mac version is beyond me. I just don't know. Gino says, I kind of miss the simpler GB instruments. I used to use my iPad 2 and record all the time. A lot of the new features in the past few years give me option anxiety. Sometimes simpler is better, just my 2 cents. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's why when people say to me, why don't you use Audio Pro? Why don't you use Cubases? Why do you keep using GarageBand? It's kind of because every time I open those other DAWs, I get a mild panic attack and then just go back to my comfortable GarageBand place, just rocking in the corner going, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. Something like that anyway. Acer BT, I would love it if accessibility with voiceover in the track editing screen, the AUV3 interface for the sliders and other things for, and also the automation. So Acer being visually impaired, I can imagine, the voiceover features. Hopefully we get better and improved accessibility functions for you and other GarageBand users, because I know that, as I was saying to you yesterday, I was shooting some emails back and forth with Acer, and I've got so much respect. I know how hard it is to get a good quality recording and sound and mix when you can see what's going on the screen. Yeah, imagine if you're just only using your ears and you're having to use voiceover features to actually control your GarageBand interface. I imagine it would be very challenging to do. Let's just see. Yeah, this is a good one from Scott. For Mac users as well, ability to truly work. Yeah, a complete compatibility between Mac and iOS would be gold, wouldn't it? That would be perfect to be able to see. But yeah, we don't have that. 1,000 watts would be being able to use third-party app without having to go between the apps. Okay, yep. So to be able to bring in a third-party app, a bit like Interapp Audio, but better, I guess, like a cross between Interapp Audio and like an audio bus or an AUM or something like that, or audio unit V3. Yeah, cool. I think that's everyone's ideas for what they want to see. Even a third-party music app. Yeah, so every third-party music app. Yeah, and I think that's sort of what Audio Bus and AUM try to do, but it would be good if you could have complete compatibility with everything. Russ says, record it to tape and back to your iOS device. Yeah, hey, absolutely. If you've got a tape deck, and you can record it and you can get that real tape sound, then absolutely go for it. Do your thing. And yes, you are late, Jade. You need to report to the principal's office immediately. SM Borthwick, I'd love the iOS amp sim to be more customizable. Options to change cabs and mic, 7-band EQ pedal. Shouldn't be a big deal. They have it on GB Mac, yeah. Oh, and the multiple time signatures and tempos. Yeah, multiple time signatures and multiple tempos. It's not in my height, because to be honest, I don't use it in a lot of songs, but when I have used it, it's been a pain in the butt not being able to go from like a 4/4 to a 5/4 bar just to create some interest, or a 2/4 bar in there. You can do it, but it's clunky and it's a workaround. And Jade, as I already mentioned this earlier, Jade, that you just want Logic. And Jade's actually very specific with her speculations. She thinks Logic is coming and it's going to be $19.99, a one-off purchase in the App Store. And if that is the case, I'm buying mine instantly, because I would definitely pay $20 to have me some Logic Pro in iOS. Jalen says, I would love it if GarageBand would tell you numerically how long your timeline is. Absolutely. So I think we've had 3 votes for that, actually, just having the simple thing of put the time on there. Like, I've been using digital audio workstations for on and off for 20 years. And I think the last one that didn't have the time was probably Scream Tracker. Shout out to my old PC mod and S3M and tracking friends. But yeah, Scream Tracker was just bars. It just had tempo and it had bars. But that was a DOS-based sequencer that used like VOC files and very low 8-bit, very low res files, and you just queued them up and sampled them, and you made mod files and S3M files. So, sorry, I'm probably talking, I'm talking very old here, but you have to be probably in your late 30s or 40s to remember this stuff, which I forget sometimes. I forget that I'm old. Cody says, what's Logic? So Logic is the big brother, big sister of GarageBand. So Logic Pro. So GarageBand is basically built around Logic Pro. Consider GarageBand a cut down version, on the Mac anyway, a cut down version of Logic Pro. So it doesn't have all of the Pro features that Logic does. So GarageBand on Mac doesn't have like all the Alchemy instruments, and it doesn't have a lot of the more professional features. The rumor is that some of the Pro apps, so things like Final Cut for video editing and Logic Pro for audio, will be coming to the iPad, and that they'll be either for the Pro iPad only or for all iPads. And it's going to be Apple's next step into the whole "this is your laptop" replacement. And it makes sense because I didn't really mention it in the section earlier, but the whole Mac OS iOS world is merging together. We saw a lot of that stuff in iOS 13.4, I think, where they started mentioning things like the apps that are going to be completely cross platform. So I think that's really going to be the future, and if anything, Mac OS is going to become more like iOS as opposed to iOS becoming more like Mac OS. I think the merge is going to happen and push things more towards the iOS side. That's the vibe that we're getting from folks as well. Jade Star is claiming that she is also old, which is cool. It's good to be old. I've always said I've been a 40-year-old man for about 20 years. I've just been waiting to grow up into my actual age. I've always been a get off my lawn, sit on my rocking chair, have a quiet Sunday afternoon, as opposed to let's go out, let's party, let's have fun. I mean, I like fun, but I just like my own special type of fun. Alrighty. Where are we at? I think we've done everything. We've had our news and notes. We've ranted. We've tipped. We've gone through plugins. A resource of the week. Well, I think I mentioned this last week, but I'm going to mention it again because it was so cool. If you didn't catch Jade Starr's How to App series last week, you should. So first thing you need to do is go away and subscribe to Jade's channel if you haven't already, and catch up on the previous episodes. And then, of course, catch up on the episodes that are happening this week, because Jade's doing, I believe you're doing a post-WWDC show. So that'll be interesting to listen to tomorrow. I'll be doing something tomorrow. Haven't quite decided yet. It depends how early I want to get up. Do I actually want to get up at 2:30 in the morning and watch the live stream, or do I come and do something a bit later in the day? We will see. But there's bound to be something here on the channel as well. But yeah, jump over to Jade's channel. Check out the How to App series. I've forgotten what you're doing this week, Jade, but you can let us know in the chat here. So the last week was drums. The week before was DAWs. This week is a mystery topic. So you'll go and find out. I think you've got all the scheduled videos are over there already. So jump on over to that one and check it out there. There you go. Shortcuts. I'm doing 20 minutes on shortcuts in 18 minutes. There you go. So learning about shortcuts, which is something I need to do. I'm terrible with shortcuts. I know folks like Sion and Jade, you basically never have to do anything manually on your stuff. Everything's just set up and you do it and you go for it, and it's all very cool. So yeah, so check that one out. Jump over to Jade's channel, check out How to App, and this week it is all about workflows, which is very cool. And funnily enough, the Shortcuts app used to be called Workflow, and then Apple bought it and kind of ruined it a bit because they removed things like MP3 support. Righty. Cody says, thank you for answering my questions. I enjoyed this live stream. I'll be back for sure, and I sub to you. Be like Cody. Be like Cody. If you enjoyed this, this is what I do at the end anyway. But if you did enjoy this, hit the like button. That just tells me that I should get up early and talk about GarageBand every week, and you got some value and maybe learned a few things or helped me speculate on what may be coming here. You can, of course, head over to studiolivetoday.com for more information, where you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the places. Join the mailing list while you're there. That'll keep you up to date every week on what's happening, all the live shows, all the past shows here on the channel as well. My gear guide is there, where you can buy all the gear that I recommend if you're in the market for gear. And if you want to support me at the next level and join another smaller community all about creating, you can, of course, join the Patreon community at patreon.com/PeteJohns. And a big thumbs up and throwing the horns to my current patrons who are supporting me over there. Thank you, folks. Enjoy the rest of your weekend for those that have some left. I'll be catching you tomorrow to find out if all this speculation is right or if it's all completely, they've led us up the garden path. We'll find out then. Thanks again, folks. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.